Hi, you guys. Welcome back. And of course, if you are new to this channel, welcome. My name is Tracy, and in this video, we are going to discuss the ego traps, and how to avoid them. So stay tuned. It is nighttime right now while I'm filming this video, as you can see. And this nighttime, this darkness around me is causing the lighting to be a little off for this video, as you might also notice. But it's also a little bit symbolic because your ego is kind of like the darkness, the dark place where your spirit, your highest self, is trying to shine the light. And as you bring awareness or light into those dark places, you will see shadows forming and different kinds of reflections on shining surfaces. So it is with the ego. The ego is kind of like that. If I had to give you an idea of the abstract idea of your ego. But I will also be sharing with you this poem that was written by an anonymous person who was a student at that mystery school that I always talk about, the one I used to attend and teach at. And so I will be sharing with you the poem, I, the Ego, by an anonymous student of the School of Metaphysics. So I'm actually going to share this poem with you in pieces, because I first want to help you to understand what the ego is. And then we'll kind of discuss that along with other ego traps that might spring up for you guys as you're kind of moving along in your spiritual journey. And then I will read to you the rest of the poem at the end of this video, just to kind of show you how you can transform your ego to a higher vibration, and so therefore you will be more aligned with the Christ within. I have held on to this piece of paper for so many years because this poem was really the first item that helped me to understand the ego, really on a deeper level, so to speak. So that is why I want to share this poem with you guys today. So again, it has no author, but the title is I, the Ego. I, the ego, have been waxing fat off the land. I am that part of each of you that says, I did this and I did that. I am pride, vanity, and prestige. I must be noticed or I cry and scream. As a child, I have tantrums, and as an adult, I cry. I am the introvert, shy and retiring when I have been hurt. I respond to praise, notice, and compliments. I will go to all ends to make you notice me. I laugh, I clown, I play the fool, the sage, the wise one, the hurt one, the persecuted one. I am even the murderer that all know and read about, for I will be noticed in one form or another. Jealous I am, and when others climb up the ladder and I don't, I feel insecure. When others are praised and I'm not, I feel invalidated. I give, but always with a hook. You must acknowledge my gifts and tell me that you like it, or I am hurt. For I have not learned to give through love and expect nothing. If I do something, I must see the result. And what is more important, they must know I did it, for I must be recognized. I am very subtle when it serves my ends, and just when you think I am gone, I rear my head. I am very vain and proud. Tell me how great I am, and I am happy. Don't let me know how great I am, and I will feel hurt and crawl back into my shell and cry, well, fine. If that's the way you're going to act, then I will not share my gifts or my thoughts with you. No longer will I be your friend. I retreat and become more alone. So the beginning of this poem, I, the Ego, it really is kind of illustrating as though it is the ego speaking, trying to just show you exactly what the ego is or what kind of traps the ego can get you stuck into. All right, so the ego is kind of like your lower nature. Now, I do want to help you guys understand the ego from a mind perspective based on the mind triangle, which is a diagram that I've shown you guys in previous videos. So I'm going to show you the mind triangle right now once again. So as a refresher, this is the mind triangle. This diagram is simply showing you the different levels of mind for each individual, okay? Try to get it all in there. All right, so we have the conscious mind. This is where you exist in your conscious waking life. And then we have subconscious mind, which is where you exist in your dream state, as well as between lifetimes. And then you have superconscious mind, which represents your mind once it has been transmuted. Basically, it is the Christ or Buddha consciousness. So that is the mind triangle, simply illustrating the 3 levels of mind. And now I'm going to add to this mind triangle once again, and I'm going to kind of illustrate where the ego would fall kind of in this mind triangle diagram, okay? So now let's take a look at the ego. Now I want to illustrate where the ego exists as it relates to your other levels of mind. There we go. So this part down at the bottom, the lower self, the cardinal self, is going to represent, this part here will represent the ego. It is your lower mind, okay? So the ego is your lower nature. So that's why it's also known as your carnal self. And it kind of creates this unbalanced base for us. So if you're living more from your actual ego, your lower nature, your carnal self, then as you can see, it's almost like a little rocker at the bottom of our mind there. It kind of keeps us a little unstable. One day we're happy, the next day we're sad, angry, joyful. So it's like we're constantly off center in some way, even only a little bit. But as we, continue to grow and continue to understand our higher nature and our higher selves, and the more that we have that connection with the deeper part of us, the higher dimensional part of us, and with God, then the more that the Holy Spirit can enter into your being, therefore causing balance and alignment in the ego. So let me show you in the diagram what the Holy Spirit or energy from your highest self would look like in the mind diagram. All right, you guys. So above all of this is your highest expression of self, your own I am. So what I would consider Holy Spirit when it comes to the mind triangle is this. Okay, so you have the light, which is awareness from your own I am, your highest part of spirit, of your own individuality. And as soon as that can penetrate down through all levels of mind, including your ego, that is what brings you into alignment, okay? This is your alignment. This is going to bring you balance from the rocker of your ego. Okay? So the more that you try to aim to connect to the highest self, to your highest nature, the more that you make that connection, the more that you will be balanced down here in the ego. Okay? And now you notice. So you take your super conscious mind, your Christ or Buddha consciousness, you take the light of your own awareness, bringing it down through all levels of mind. And that is exactly what meditation does for you. It is important for you to know who you really are. You are a soul who is living in a temporary body with a temporary conscious mind. And so it is time to just enter into your kingdom often. And entering into your kingdom often means that it's always good to meditate and pray and to give thanks for all the blessings that you have in your life. It's important to see the connection in all things. We are all connected. Even if you cannot actually see those lines that connect us, there are these threads that connect us on other dimensions that we simply can't see from this lower view, this carnal self that we are living right now. So just because we can't see the connection doesn't mean that the connection doesn't exist. Other people are actually reflecting yourself back to you, believe it or not. And by the way, your ego isn't going to want you to believe it. But when you interpret dreams, other people in your dreams are actually representing aspects of yourself or your own mind. So you can actually extend the symbolism of those dreams into your day-to-day life and recognize that what you see in others is actually something that you see in yourself. Have you ever heard that common phrase, it takes one to know one? Well, let's apply that here. Now, because many of us just kind of left our egos unchecked for so long, we don't even know how off center we really are until we begin to meditate and connect with that higher part of ourselves once again. But the traps of the ego include anything that tempts you to remain in your lower self. So basically, anytime your mind is trying to go maybe back to an old habit or belief that you're trying to get away from, or anytime that you're just tempted to do the wrong thing based on what your true beliefs are, that is kind of like an ego trap that you can get stuck in. The ego, as it's stated in the poem, causes us to feel separate from others. The ego causes us to be in competition with another person, even if other people don't feel the same way about the situation that we do. So our ego can actually make us feel very separate. And the more that we kind of reinforce that feeling through our actions, words, and strengthening our beliefs and things, then the more separate we're going to feel over time as well. So this separateness or connectedness is something that you can grow in, but it's something that you have to work towards. So are you focusing more on your lower nature and seeing yourself as separate from the rest of your community, your family, or your circle of friends? Or are you more connected to your higher self and you see yourself as connected to your community, to your circle of friends, and to your family? Life is all about change. I mean, it is literally always changing. There are 4 seasons each and every year, proving to us over and over again through its cycles that the earth is in a constant state of change. Therefore, we are in a constant state of change as well. Each and every day that we wake up and experience something different from the day before, we are changing very subtly, but we are changing. And so therefore, if you have like a big goal that you want to attain, An ego trap might be that little fear inside of you that is afraid to take that leap or to take that first step towards your goal. So if you just connect with your higher self, your higher nature, rather than your lower nature, that fear of change will simply fade away because you will have more faith in what you can create for yourself in your own life. The ego makes you feel like without it, you have no identity. You are not an individual. You are merely, I don't know, a zombie walking around, I guess. But that it couldn't be further from the truth. What happens when you align with your highest self is your little ego, that is your carnal self, which is below your conscious mind even, and created only in the world. That part of you is the little ego. Now, up in your super conscious mind, at the very top of your mind triangle, is your light, who you really are from your core being. The part of you that comes along in every single lifetime, in every single experience that your soul has ever had. All right? That is the big ego. So you still are an individual, but you'll be more connected with that part of you that is more in alignment with universal love. And universal love isn't the same as what the ego thinks of as romantic love, which includes things like jealousy and competition and, loving someone as long as they do this or that for you in return and that kind of thing. That's little ego stuff. Universal love is of the big ego, and universal love is just this feeling of care and compassion that is extended to every single living being upon the planet. It is also extended to the planet itself, as well as out into our solar system. And this feeling can include the entire universe. So, are you more connected with the ego in a sense of love, or are you more connected with your big ego, with the sense of universal love? So basically what I'm trying to say is that you don't lose your identity or your individuality. You are still your very own spark of light, and you are still following your own higher self. But it's almost as though once you've transcended the little ego, or as you are transcending the little ego, you just begin to align with that higher part of you. But yet your identity and who you are obviously still remains, but your vibration is going to be heightened. And, so the track that your little ego tries to get you stuck in is just making you believe that you won't be who you are anymore if you change and follow a spiritual path, for instance. The ego wants you to believe that you are simply just a human having a human experience. And when it's over, it's over. But your higher self wants you to know that you are spirit having yet another human experience. Your conscious mind is the part of you that is your filter for this lifetime. Your conscious mind has helped you to build this ego over the course of your entire life. So it is your conscious mind that will also help you to overcome the ego. So now let's read the second half of I, the Ego, so that we can see how we can avoid falling into all of these ego traps, or at least how we can stop falling for all of these different ego traps. I don't like this religious life, for it threatens my life and makes me uneasy. Pompous ceremonies are fine, but oh, these meditations are terribly hard on me. I don't like people who meditate because they begin thinking of others and not me, and wanting to help others and deny me. Why, I am made to sacrifice myself in order that they can do things for others, and I don't like it. Gads, it's horrible being in a body that does this meditating very long. Soon I start screaming and having all kinds of tantrums. But damn it, if they continue in their meditations, then these little tricks of mine don't have much effect on them, and I'm unhappy. I try my darndest to make them feel alone, unhappy, persecuted, unwanted, unloved, not belonging, sick, crabby, restless, hungry, tired. Oh, I have all sorts of things I pull out of my bag of tricks. For once I get my foot in the door, I can play on the emotions in one form or another. I want them to know what they are doing to me. I hate religious people who are humble, gracious, and loving. That's the worst part of all, love. That just kills me. Particularly this universal love bit. When they persist in this love and meditation, I am so unhappy and I cry, "You're killing me!" All they say to me is that my carnal self dieth daily. Gads, that's me they're killing. Finally, I sink beside the bed, crying out for help. They are crucifying me on the cross of matter, me, the ego, the carnal self. I plead, "Don't do this to me. We've been together for so long. Without you, I am dead." All they say to me is, "You must die in order that I may live." But for by your living, I, the soul, am unhappy and can be hurt. And I react to all kinds of hateful, negative remarks and acts in this world. Thus, for many lives, you have made me unhappy and alone. Now you must die. What will happen to me now? Is there no life at all for me, I ask? No, they reply. You must die as the carnal ego, and the atoms from which you come be dispersed and sent forth this time for a higher calling, and blessed in the name of the Christ, that hereafter they will be assembled together and used only for good. So goodbye, my ego. God bless you into a higher form of life, they said to me. Thus I died, I the ego. But I will be reborn anew in a different vibratory pattern, and one day I will learn the lesson of universal love. So, as the poem points out, it is extremely important to enter into a state of meditation on a regular basis if you want to overcome the traps of the ego. Because as you begin to still your mind or to slow down your conscious thinking, then you are more able to observe these thoughts that arise in your mind, and then you're able to fully discern if this thought is in alignment with your higher self, your lower self. You know, you're more able to take a thought for what it really is rather than simply just following the thought in your mind that is the loudest amongst all the chatter. So that's because the ego speaks the loudest. So if you have a noisy mind, your ego is going to be sure to be heard, period. So it is very important that if you do not have a meditation practice that you've been practicing, that you maybe, think about starting a meditation practice. And in case you didn't know, you can begin a meditation practice with no more than 10 minutes per day. And I've made some other videos about meditation, so please feel free to search those on my channel as well. And just kind of begin to learn what meditation is to you. Now, another thing that the poem points out to help you to overcome the ego is to be in alignment with that higher sense of universal love. And if you remember from, some of my previous videos where I have shared the scale of consciousness, then you'll remember that love is a very high vibration. It rates very highly on the scale of consciousness. And so therefore, even if you don't quite make it, as long as that's your target, you're literally raising your vibration. And the more you raise your vibration out of those lower, forceful feelings of like fear, doubt, shame, guilt, grief, as long as you can move yourself out of all of those feelings and try to get up into the high vibe feelings, the better off you will be. And then the longer you can maintain yourself in the higher vibe states, then the easier it will be for you to gradually move up the ladder of consciousness, reaching universal love. I'm not saying that meditating and thinking about this is going to change you in a day. You do not plant a seed and eat the fruit in the same day. That never happens. You have to plant the seed, you have to nurture it, and you have to wait for it to grow. And in the case of fruit trees, you have to wait for that tree to mature before it will ever bear fruit. Just like you and your spiritual journey, your journey is unfolding at whatever pace that you will allow it. So if you begin to practice a daily meditation, it's like giving your seeds to miracle grow. It's going to make yourself blossom a lot faster than if you aren't meditating. So I do highly recommend meditation. Now, another thing that I know has helped me so much on my spiritual journey is journaling. So I'm going to tell you guys again that along with meditation, I would recommend journaling at least as often as you can. Get yourself a special book that you can write in, where you can clear your thoughts, you can release pent-up emotions to yourself. And in general, it's a good place to write down any cool experiences that you have along your spiritual journey. And another word of advice would be to make sure that you put dates on all the pages, because it has honestly been a lot of fun to look back on the years and know kind of when things happen, because you can kind of see over time how your spiritual growth and development happen, as long as you're documenting it. So anyway, I really do love journaling. I recommend it not only for the benefits it gives you in the now present moment, but also in the future. It is fun to reflect on where you've been as well. And during those kind of reflections, you can also grow in the future present moment while you are reflecting on your past present moment. Well, that about wraps it up for this video. So if you like this video, be sure to click that like button. And of course, if you're a viewer but not yet a subscriber, I would love for you to click subscribe today right under this video. And once you've subscribed, you can then click the bell to be notified each and every time that I upload a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching and spending your time with me. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.